A shout out now to the Delaware 87ers for hosting a Lyme Aid for Kids night on February 17th. Working with the Lyme Disease Association and WNBA All-Star and 87ers Goodwill Ambassador Elena Deladon, the event helped raise money for families who struggle to pay for Lyme diagnosis and treatment. And a shout out to IHOP restaurants for their National Pancake Day celebration. On March 3rd, IHOP encourages guests to make voluntary donations to the Children's Miracle Network hospitals in exchange for a free short stack of buttermilk pancakes. IHOP hopes to raise $3.5 million. If you'd like us to shout out to your charity or event, go to our website, www.anotherthing.tv, and give us all the information.
The last U.S. Census shows that almost 10,000 Cubans live in the Philadelphia and surrounding area. And a lot of people have very strong opinions about whether to finally lift the sanctions that have been in place for more than 50 years. New Jersey Senator Robert Menendez, whose parents were born in Cuba, says President Obama is misguided and naive. He told the Philadelphia Inquirer that Cuba will never reform. But many other people say it's about time that we finally lift this embargo against the tiny island just 90 miles south of us.
I think it's good for their economy, and it's good for the economy of the U.S., especially Florida. And I just think it's a humanitarian issue more than anything. I think the best thing we could do for Cuba is to lift the sanctions and help normalize relations.
Well, I think it's been time for a long time. I mean, there have been people suggesting this since the late 70s. I know I was.
Penn professor Roman Della Campa came to the U.S. from Cuba by himself when he was just 14 years old. He still has some family there and goes back every year for conferences. He says President Obama realizes the embargo makes no sense, especially to Americans dying to do business with Cuba.
Then there's the American public who doesn't like to be told they can't travel somewhere, especially somewhere that poses no visible threat. If you think of all the places that pose visible threats, all the places that are largely communist, you know, what is Cuba except this thorn in the side of people who have a lot of political power in Florida?
The Obama administration wants to open an embassy in Cuba within the next few months. But Senator Marco Rubio of Florida says that will never happen with this Congress. He says senators and representatives will never confirm an ambassador and will never give a dime towards normalizing relations with Cuba. Reporting for Another Thing, I'm Ellen Kolodziej.
And now to talk more about the relaxation of diplomatic relations and travel relations with Cuba is Maria Lau, who is a Cuban-American artist from Jersey City. Her family's from Cuba, but you were born in this country.
Yes.
And it's important to talk to people like you, Maria, because for most Americans, when we talk about the relaxation of relations with Cuba, we think about getting cigars and being able to travel there.
Yes.
But there's a large population, including yourself, where this is much more personal. Could you explain what this means to you?
Well, personally, the Cuba issue is very emotional. It's very complex. The United States has a very sordid history with Cuba. It's not, we could start there. But on a personal level, on a family level, we feel the pain of exile. And for my generation that still has family on the island, I think one of our primary concerns is going to be reunification of families. And that's what I've tried to do, and that's where I think we should focus.
It's interesting to me that we have these Cuban Americans that say, I want to travel back, I have family. And there's these Cuban Americans that say, no, no matter what. And they seem to be at the root of this.
They are. But I think you're looking at a new generation now, my generation, who has picked up the plight. And we want change. We want to see some kind of progress. It's just been too long without any possibilities. And with Obama doing what he did recently, there's at least some hope. You know, there's the possibility of change. There was none before.
We tend to look at things from our perspective, what it's going to mean to us personally. Right. But what if this is going to mean to Cuba is even more significant.
Yes.
What will it mean to Cuba?
I think when we allow access of information, it can change a society, so that we're going to have more communication with them, dialogue. That's a very positive thing. that we can make it easier for families to be reunited. That's a great thing. When we're looking business-wise, competitively, it's actually very expensive to travel to Cuba. Maybe things will be less expensive now if we have more airlines going out there and be competitive pricing. These are some of the changes that we could expect to see.
Maria, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you for
here.
having me.
Maria Lau, Cuban-American artist working out of Jersey City. When Another Thing continues, my commentary next.